All right, everyone, welcome back to the Family Movie Time podcast. I'm your host, Jeff M. Giordano. Today, we are going to talk about Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home from 1986. This is an hour-long movie in 58 minutes, almost 2 hours. If you haven't seen the film and you want to watch the movie, I want to mention that it is streaming on Canopy. It's kanopy.com. You can usually get access to Canopy through your public library. Similarly, hoopladigital.com functions similar to Canopy in that you can get it through your public library, and basically they'll let you watch a certain amount of movies each month, and it's free and there's no ads. So you could check the film out there. It is on Paramount Plus. And my guests today, Brian and Nick, thank you
Hello.
very much for being here.
Oh, nice.
Um, I want to give the mic to Nick first to give us some context on the Star Trek storyline from Part 3, Search for Spock, which was before Part 4, The Voyage Home.
Hey, well, first off, thanks for having me on. I love talking about Star Trek in addition to other things like, Marvel, DC. But yeah, so actually, technically, Star Trek 4 is the third part of what would be considered the Kelvin trilogy, starting with Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, then continuing the story to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and culminating with Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. So long story short, Wrath of Khan, Khan goes after Kirk, Spock dies. Spoiler alert for a movie that's about 42, 43 years old at this point. So then in the search for Spock, they actually go to reunite Spock's, his Katra, his soul, with his body that was, laid to rest on the Genesis planet, which had regenerative properties. And so obviously they go on the journey. What happens is they're not supposed to go on the journey. Starfleet is like, nope, you can't go to the Genesis planet. But Kirk, being so devoted to Spock, that's his best friend, goes anyway. He and his crew risk their careers. They go and they find Spock with, Lieutenant Savick and his son David, who unfortunately is killed by the Klingons in this movie in Star Trek 3. But they take him to Vulcan in the Klingon, the bird of prey. They actually hijack the bird of prey, take it to Vulcan in 3, reunite Spock's mind and his body, and then that's where we get into the events of Star Trek 4.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you. I want to first talk about this film. Is there a villain? It's almost like it has no villain, and time travel replaces the dynamic or the dramatic tension. Would you agree, Brian?
I would, yeah. I mean, and Nick did such a great job tying in the other films. If there were references to villainous characters in the previous films, they might have flown over my head because I was kind of coming into it cold as like a standalone. But then I knew what I knew about it was the same thing that a lot of people probably baseline know about it, which is it's the one about the whales. This is the whale one, and I think it's just so cool. I think you're right, Jeff. I mean, there is like some adversarial guy. Well, you got the guys in the beginning, right, Nick? The Klingon guys.
Yes, the Klingon ambassador, he's still a little mad that that Kirk blew up or he killed the Klingon commander, who was played by Christopher Lloyd, by the way. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, so in that, because it's interesting because the Klingons were actually starting to negotiate for peace, which isn't something that we'd see until like the sixth installment. But yeah, they were probably the most antagonistic force outside of like the whalers. That's something I loved about Star Trek 4 that is kind of the same with Star Trek the motion picture. There's no villain, there's no super villain that you have to defeat like something out of other Star Trek movies or like a superhero movie.
Any other sci-fi?
Yeah.
There's always a villain.
Yeah,
And
but
somehow we're able to do it without it. It's
yeah,
yeah, really.
well, the villain itself is our inhumanity towards nature. Sci-fi has those kind of themes of environmentalism and racism, bigotry, all of that stuff. And here you get that kind of sci-fi feel.
I will say the maybe rougher imagery to watch is probably the Greenpeace footage of the whalers, attacking the whales, trying to capture the whales. That's shown earlier in the film. And
Yeah.
there's some video footage of the ship, kind of explosions on the ship, and some video footage that's from, I think, Search for Spock, that they're watching during the meeting in the beginning of the film. So I think aside from those scenes, there really isn't even much fighting. I think when they're running after is it Chekhov on the Navy ship, you see guys with guns, but nobody shoots at him, but like, they're pursuing him, they're running after him. So it's
Mhm.
really an interesting movie when you look at just like what is the violence or what is the kind of like, more fighting stuff. There's not too much, it's very little. I like that part of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, in the series, yeah, okay, in the original series, you'll see Jim Kirk fighting, maybe the Gorn or some random guy. He fights Khan in Khan's first appearance. But yeah, Star Trek's not super duper known for violence and fighting. That's more Star Wars and also like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, where they're like blasting phasers every 15 minutes. But yeah, this one in this series is more, it's usually what they can do to solve problems. And this carries over to other episodes, like other series, in the franchise. But yeah, this one, they only ever draw their guns. They don't fire anything. Chekhov tries to. He just pulls the Klingon phaser on the guys there, and it doesn't work. But I mean, I think that's also speaking to the tone of the movie because Star Trek 2 and 3 were kind of on the heavier side. This one's like on the lighter side. They're not really fighting a person. They're just trying to save the planet with by succeeding in their mission.
Did the whales feel like for you guys like a departure from the rest of the series, or does this actually remain true to like the series as a whole in terms of like the environmental message or more earth friendly message?
I think it fits in with the themes they've established, even from the
Yeah.
original show. And it's I think this one's almost maybe, is it the most psychedelic Star Trek movie, given the colors, the time travel sequence, the clouds.
Oh, that stuff was really cool.
I even watched the film on mute and had it subtitled just to really pay attention to the imagery more and just the lighting. And it's always like when the ship's in an emergency mode, you get the cool lighting, like the reds and the blues and purples and stuff.
Mist and yeah.
In the mist, yeah, like foggy stuff. And the time travel sequence really like awesome to watch that. I mean, I almost wish it was longer, like it went on for another minute or something. So
I think
I think the whales fit into their, aesthetic, the story, the universe they've created.
Yeah, I would agree. There's something I really, really enjoyed. You brought up the mist. Like it's whenever they first land in like what is it, Golden Gate Park, and then they're cloaked, and then you see the ship open up, the garbage men are like they're seeing this, and it's like they're seeing what they think are extraterrestrials. Well, one of them is an extraterrestrial, but they're seeing that open up, and that also lends to the comedy of it. But yeah, like you said, the time travel sequence, like everything leading up to it, where like they're going so fast, and you see like the camera's rattling a little bit, and then the thing explodes near Uhura, and then like they do the little slingshot around the sun, and then that trippy imagery and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very interesting. In fact, I actually saw this. Oh, I've watched it over the years plenty of times. I even have it on Blu-ray, but I actually saw it in the theater for its 35th anniversary.
Wow.
It was really cool to see on the big screen.
What were the seeing the film on the big screen, Nick? What were the memorable moments that you felt like with the audience you reacted together, or there was kind of a
Well,
similar feeling?
Well, this was kind of during the pandemic, so there wasn't much. It was like the tail end of the pandemic, so there weren't that many people in the theater. So luckily, it was just nice and quiet and could bask in it and soak it up. But the people who were there, when we got the appropriate laughs, like the double dum, on you on that line, and whenever Kirk is on the bus with that punk with the radio. So yeah, that was appropriate. Oh, one little note that guy, the punk on the bus, who's also one of the producers of the movie, he actually makes a cameo appearance in Spider-Man Homecoming when the one guy is like, do a flip. That's the guy right next to him on the street.
Wow. Is he still a big time producer now? Did he produce Spider-Man or?
That I don't know. I think they're just like, hey, come in for a cameo because they love their nerd stuff. Even though Spider-Man in those movies was like big into Star Wars, but either way, I'll take it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the deal? So William Shatner in this is great, but he sort of plays like a romantic lead a little bit with the lady that works at the Ocean Institute with the whales. Um, and she seems to kind of like flirt a little bit with him, but he's always just William Shatner, so he doesn't really do anything that it would indicate he's interested in her. Is he sort of like is that also true to like just Captain Kirk, and he's not like a really sensitive guy when it comes to that stuff? No.
Want to take this, Jeff?
You could take it if you want. I'm not sure where to go with that one.
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah, like there are those little glimpses of her flirting with
yeah.
Captain Kirk and back and forth, and they had chemistry. I think the reason why, what is her name? Catherine Hicks. Why she got the role was because of her chemistry with William Shatner. But like the thing is, I guess it might have been an age difference, an age gap was too great for that. But like in the original series, yeah, Kirk, you could find him with his arms around any kind of alien woman. So it's not out of character for him to be with it. And to be honest, I wouldn't blame him if he did, try to pursue Jillian. That's just my opinion. I'm trying to keep it clean.
There is that moment towards the end where he's like, well, when will I see you again? What's your phone number? And she's like, oh, I'll just see you around.
Yeah. And she's a member of Starfleet at that point. She gets like a jacket and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pete.
Should we go through the cast since we're talking about, beyond the Star Trek fleet or team? Do you want to run? I could run through the casts.
Absolutely. That'd be cool.
So, Leonard Nimoy directed the film. We have William Shatner, Kirk, Leonard Nimoy, Spock, DeForest Kelly, McCoy, James Doohan, Scotty, George Takei, Sulu, Walter Cohen, Chekhov, Nichelle Nichols, Uhura, Jane Wyatt, Amanda, Catherine Hicks, Jillian, Mark Leonard, Sarek, Robin Curtis, L.T. Savick, Robert Ellenstein, Federation Council President, John Shuck, Klingon Ambassador, Brock Peters, Admiral Cartwright, Michael Snyder, Starfleet Communications Officer, Michael Berryman, Starfleet Display Officer. Did I leave anyone out that I should include for further in the casts?
No, I think you covered mostly everybody. I mean, aside from like a few little cameos here or there, I
You
believe.
said Christopher Lloyd. I forgot him.
Yeah, he was in Star Trek
Yeah.
3. Yeah, and
Michael Berryman too.
oh yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like a horror guy. He's
Yeah, wasn't he in The Hills Have Eyes, the original?
yep. And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
All right, so now yeah, he must have been one of the aliens. He had like the weird like skin and stuff like yeah, now. Oh, and this movie actually features at least to this point because this was in 1986 the first female captain of a starship, and that was Madge Sinclair, who also was the queen in The Lion King and the queen in Coming to America, so all coming together.
Whoa.
It's very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So I mean, and it was something that wasn't even a big deal. She was just the captain, and then they encountered the big probe and all of that.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to say to outside the film, my entry to Star Trek, like, as a younger person,
Mm.
first time I heard of it or first time somebody mentioned it, I had a cousin and um, when he was born, he didn't get enough oxygen. So he wound up being disabled intellectually. So we try to visit him around the holidays. And whenever I saw him, he would be kind of into something or chatting. And he mentioned Star Trek. And I
Oh,
was like, oh, wow, I haven't really watched, I think I've heard of it. And he goes, oh, yeah, I really enjoy it, the TV series. And he got like, it really brought him a lot of joy. And that was like the seed. And then I had a um, philosophy teacher in high school that would show episodes from the
Nice.
original series to demonstrate certain philosophy, ideas and themes and questions. So for me, yeah, that was like early on, and then on my own over the past couple years, I've watched all the films, and I haven't seen the TV series honestly as much, but I'd like to actually see the original, like the first one at least, like really go through it from the first episode. So just to say if you guys want to share, you can, but I wanted to make sure to mention that.
Yeah. Well, I obviously heard Star Trek all my life because my mom, she watched the original Trek when it was on its original run as a kid, and she would have the Next Generation on, and one of my most vivid memories of that was like I was just walking to the room. I was really little, and it was on, so I was always aware of Star Trek. I'd seen Star Trek First Contact when it was on HBO, but I got into Trek because while I was supposed to be watching the Romeo and Juliet from 1968, I got bored. I switched to HBO. Star Trek: The Motion Picture was on. I was like, okay, I'll watch this for a little bit. Ended up watching the rest of it, and then I was like, okay, I gotta watch the entire thing. And then it snowballed from there, where I was like, okay, I gotta see Star Trek 2 and 3 and 4, and luckily they were playing on TV. So and yeah, mainly I've watched a lot of the original series and Next Generation, dabbled in Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and I saw obviously the most recent movies with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto and all that. So that's really my Trek journey, and a little bit of through work, a little bit of was it Discovery? Yeah, I've seen some of Star Trek Discovery and a little bit of Star Trek Picard. But yeah, I would recommend definitely watching the original series since you've seen the movies, and I love the Next Generation. I mean, it's got Patrick Stewart. Come on.
yeah. I think my own memories were in the '90s were Next Generation because that was Patrick Stewart was like art was of our time. But then what's so amazing about Star Trek is it just as such a life. It's been generational. It's gone back like over 50 years. That there was. It's almost like Saturday Night Live. There are all these different casts, and this is the original cast or part of the earlier legacy of the show. And I'm not as familiar with some of the earlier stuff, so it is really cool just to see like everyone from Scotty to Dr. McCoy to like Captain Kirk, and just they're so iconic characters. And I was just watching on YouTube Siskel and Ebert's review of this film, and they both gave it a good, two thumbs up, and basically said like, a lot of sci-fi, even that era, like mid '80s, there was relied on like the action and the explosions and all the stuff, and this is just really a movie about the characters. Like you watch this movie because you love the characters, and you guys grew up with them, so like you followed them from the TV show through, up till this point, 4 films in the series, but but I know it keeps going from there. But it is really amazing. And I don't know, do you think this is the best cast? I mean, is this the truest cast, or would you argue for something else?
I know I would personally say it's a little bit apples and oranges because I do love Kirk, Spock, and McCoy and Uhura and all those
Yeah,
classic characters, but I also love Picard and Riker and Data and Worf.
Data.
And
Yeah,
then
worth.
Captain Janeway Captain Cisco. There's so many
Yeah,
good versions and good
yeah.
characters throughout the entire franchise. But I guess I might gravitate. I really just gravitate more towards the original series cast and the next gen cast. And but I like them. I like pretty much all.
I agree. I think the original series and um, I was going to say I watched the film Voyage Home with the audio commentary by Shatner and Nimoy. And one of the things mentioned was each time they made a film, they didn't know if there would be another one. So they would just when they took down the sets, they would just throw them away, discard them. They didn't save them. So like every film has like its own, production design that's fresh and sets that are fresh. Um, yeah, I really was like taken by that comment. Had you heard of that? And either of you?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that they would do that for each film. Like I figured that after Star Trek 2 hit, they would like try to keep a few things. But that's interesting that they would still just like redo it from scratch. And I mean, I think it worked especially for this movie because like I mean, obviously. I don't know how much they would be saving by, setting it as opposed to on an alien world. They're setting it on the streets of, the then present San Francisco. But I think it worked because, again, sometimes they go to different, like they were on Vulcan for the beginning of the movie, and then they're on like on the Starship Enterprise at the end of the movie. And it's nice to see them go just back to like a nicer, like a simpler setting. Although I mean, obviously it's not simple for them because they're almost getting hit by cars and stuff. But
Those scenes were great. The whole every I could have watched 4 hours of them just walking around San Francisco. So good. Just like sometimes it's like just the simple things. It's just like Spock on a bus.
What
You know,
about I was gonna say, man, it's a good moment to say the the role of money in the Star Trek universe, and you know, a comment's made. Oh, we're going back. San Francisco now. They're still using money, so we have to kind of work with this and figure out a way to kind of get through the day here. So the role of currency or money in Star Trek? Any thoughts on that?
well, first off, I really wish that we would stop using money like they do now, but we don't live in that kind of world. Not yet, anyways. But no, I think it lends to a natural humor because like whenever he sells the broken the broken the spectacles to the guy, he pawns them off, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll give you $100." He's like, Is that a lot?" And it's like it felt natural. It wasn't like mugging to the camera kind of humor. And then like when you see him split the money up and give it to his friends, it didn't feel like a natural way, like how we physically handle money, like just or with the apps. He had to like it was like,
Yeah.
and then he had to take don't splurge because like I don't know, it's just. But then think about this. We're talking about this from a 2020's perspective, how much things cost. Think about how much they had to spend back in 1986. So they could have stretched that dollar further back then as opposed to now. So it's a good thing they didn't travel to 2025.
I agree with you, Brian. Just seeing them walk around the streets of San Francisco and interacting with people, and Joe, maybe this is Joe. He had a comment about the fact that, okay, if the base is in San Francisco, right? Isn't the Star Trek one of the Earth bases? It's supposed to be in the Bay Area or San Francisco. Why were they so lost? Why did they have such a
Yeah.
hard time? Do you think that was a slip up in the script, or is that just part of the comedy that they were clueless and they should have known?
What does Kirk? Kirk was. He kept saying he was born in Idaho, right?
He was
How
yeah,
long?
he's kind of in Iowa. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Iowa. I'm sorry. How long has he been in outer space for? Has he forgotten what it's like to be on Earth, or has he been in space too long?
That I don't think like well, at least from what I know from at least the original series and that they shouldn't have trouble being there. I mean, matter of fact, they were just there in Star Trek 3, they like whenever Sarek came and visited them. So the only thing I could think of is, and this might not be the best excuse, but it's like maybe because it didn't look the same, because it would be all high tech looking, especially like
The
if
year
you,
that they're in.
yeah, like they came from the 23rd century, so what we're talking about the 2200s. My math might be off,
Oh,
so
I see. So
so
Kirk is
maybe
from the future.
yeah, so maybe San Francisco looks a little differently, but you would think that it's not that different. But I don't know. I still like it. I'll let that slide because it's just fun to see them like they try to get on a bus. I mean, they know certain places, but they're like,
Yeah.
okay, still have to look at a map and stuff.
What are some of the favorite lines that, have stayed with you over the years that you remember even before they're said in the film? Is there any that you would like to mention?
Brian, you can go.
Oh no, you go, Nick.
Okay, well, all right. First off, speaking of the money thing, when they get on the bus, they get right off the bus, and Spock says, "What does it mean? Exact change." Love that line. And another one is when he's at the little like, the computer console thing and on Vulcan, and he's doing all the training. He's just kicking butt at the training, and then it goes, "How do you feel?" And it just keeps repeating like that. That just sticks with.
I like when Scotty gets really excited about the whales and he goes, "There'll be whales here."
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah.
Scotty.
They say something like, we're going to San Francisco, or we're going back to Earth, and it's in the past, and there's still a very what does it say, primitive and paranoid, people or something. There's some kind of
Oh,
comment like that.
Yes.
I love when sci-fi movies just make fun of Earth, like in The Matrix. Talk about humans are the worst species, or they're the disease. But Star Trek isn't as cynical as I feel like some other franchises really down on Earth.
Well, yeah, because a lot of well, the one thing I love about Star Trek as opposed to other sci-fi franchises, is that in the future where they're doing all this exploring, first off, they're doing exploring, they're explorers. They'll welcome civilizations that develop warp capabilities and are advanced enough into the Federation. They're not going to take them by force. And it's a more utopian society and a more utopian look at Earth, because it's like in Star Trek First Contact, which actually happens to be my favorite Star Trek movie, they even say that once they make first contact with an alien race, which I'm not going to spoil, even though the movie's like almost 30 years old at this point, but things start to change and Earth gets, there's no more poverty and disease and war. It's just wiped out by like the 22nd century. So it's they come from a more evolved and peaceful, space, and that's something I do. I think it makes it stand out a little bit more.
It is such a sprawling, like the Star Trek, the Gene Roddenberry. I mean, the creator of the original characters story, and it's such a sprawling and even now it's like, what is there? The Holodecks? Is that like an animated spin-off show?
Star Trek Lower Deck.
Lower Decks, sorry, Lower Decks. Um, anything else on the cinematography? Like, were there any certain scenes? For me, I would say the time travel scenes. For you both, is there any particular scenes where visually it was, striking, or or for you, Nick, seeing it over the years, did it certain visuals, do you remember?
One visual I love is whenever they show up into the past, but they're still in space, but you see out of the view screen, you see Earth. And then I believe that's where Sulu says, he says, or not, he says San Francisco, I was born there. He might have said that later, but you see just Earth there, and they're talking about the pollution content, but you see it on the view screen. And you're like, and especially seeing that on the big screen where it's true format, you're like, wow, like kind of feel like you're almost on the bridge of the renamed HMS Bounty. I would say, yeah, again, I agree with you with the time travel sequence, and I like that overhead shot where you see the probe going over the camera, going past the camera,
Mm.
because that you get that sense of size and scale, like, and how dangerous this thing actually is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I mean, just watching it again, I think like, I really love the whale stuff. Like I kept kind of going back to that, and the last big scene with the whale where the whale's communicating with the probe, and it's like an underwater shot where you see like the whale's eye, and I don't know what they did, if they had like a real whale or if they had some giant puppet or something, but it looked so cool and it like just felt so real. It felt like I was watching Jaws or Jurassic Park or something, like just the size of it. And
I believe it was a puppet, but you see, that's the beauty of the filmmaking back then. Yeah, they might have needed to make a whale, big whale puppet or whatever, but
yeah.
it's real. It feels real. Like it looked when you see
Oh
the
yeah.
another shot that actually does stick out is where Spock he mind melds with the whale in the tank,
Yeah.
and you see him right next to it. It's a real thing. It's not CGI. Like Leonard Nimoy had to put his face near a prop that looked like a whale eye, and it feels more tangible that way.
I want to pause for a moment. He's trying to set up his audio. It's Joe. Um, Yo, Joe, can you hear us? Can you see me waving?
Nope.
Say something if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Or just say something whenever you're on. We'll just keep talking in the meantime. Um, the Leonard Nimoy directed this one, and there's different. I've heard different things about it. When I watched the film with the audio commentary with Shatner and Nimoy, Nimoy did talk about it a little bit. he said it was challenging to like look behind the camera and then run and do his scenes at times. And he said he didn't think he said he could have did a better job when he looks at some of the scenes now. And but
Oh,
I think that's just a film. I think that's a filmmaker thing.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the rest of us, I'm like, man, I love this movie. It's like probably my fourth or fifth favorite of the Star Trek movies. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but like any kind of anybody who works on any kind of film, you're much more sensitive to what you created, whereas the outside world is like, I don't know what you're talking about. I liked it. It was cool. It was fine. And I know Brian knows about this. You could talk to that.
Yeah, I'm just looking up what other films did Leonard Nimoy direct? He did other Star Trek films, or
He did Star Trek 3, but luckily, I mean, he wasn't on camera that much, so he was able to focus more on that. And then did he did something else. I can't remember.
he did a film with Gene Wilder that I was reading about yesterday, and it's like a weird kind of offbeat comedy. I haven't seen it. It doesn't sound great, but that one is, it seems like kind of a very strange choice. And I wonder, there's probably a documentary or probably a book about the making of that film. That would be a more interesting, probably way to take it in.
there are a couple of other interesting movies on his filmography. He also directed Three Men and a Baby.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. I was like, was that
Oh
that
wow, forgot
him or
about that.
I
That's
wasn't
interesting.
sure if that was him or if that was Harold Ramis, the Egon from
Yeah,
Ghostbusters.
I would have. Yeah, that would have been a good guess too.
And they use a lot. I wrote this down. Nimoy or Shatner during the commentary, the richness of delineation of the characters in talking about Voyage Home, and like um, Spock, the whole thing in the beginning. The computer asks him, "How do you feel?" And he can't. He struggles in that moment. I think that was the point where they mentioned that.
Yes, yeah. I always love that part because it's like he had to get retrained in his mind. And then like it kind of like takes him kind of back to like a factory reset where he's like, I can't tell a lie. He's like, remember you've done it before. And you got these they always had these clear kind of character arcs like with Dr. McCoy. God love DeForest Kelly as Dr. McCoy. He and teaming him and Scotty up, and where Scotty's like my assistant, and then he says, "Don't get buried in the part." But that's always been that kind of that humor from that character.
The following films after this film, are there any other, as far as environmental themes, what comes to mind?
Well, I don't know about environmental. I think maybe the one that gets a little closest to that. And even then, I still wouldn't say it's super duper environmental, would probably be Star Trek Insurrection, which is a next generation movie where they have this planet where its rings have regenerative properties, and the Federation teams up with this race called the Baku, and they want to like harvest the regenerative powers for XYZ, but it would also mean dislocating or relocating, I should say, this group that's settled there, but I feel like they more or less go towards other topics. Like literally, Star Trek 6 is an allegory for the end of the Cold War, especially given the fact that if you were to watch the original series and these and some of these movies like 3, 4, especially 6, you'll see that like the Klingons were kind of the Soviet Union and the Federation was the I guess the United States, because I mean they take place during the Cold War, and that again goes to those sci-fi, that real sci-fi feel to it, where it's talking about these these topics. It's topical, but it's not beating you over the head with it. It's like it's an allegory. And I recommend Star Trek Six. That's a really good one. That might be like my third favorite.
And that's still with the original. Yeah, I want to
Yep,
see what the top is.
yeah, that's actually the original. Like that was the last movie in the franchise to have all of the seven originals and like a couple of people who had been in the original series there. But that movie, like with William Shatner, Takei. Matter of fact, I don't know if you guys saw Avengers Endgame, but where they sign off, like Jeremy Renner, Scarlett Johansson, and all of those people, they like their signatures pop up, and then you have the Avengers theme. They literally took that from the end of Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country, where they're signing off on the franchise.
Wow.
I have to say too, the diversity of the cast, and then even when it gets into the different races, the aliens, different. I mean, at the end of the film, Voyage Home, you see all these other, I don't know what to call them, beings or creatures. I mean, the people like they're furry. Some, it's like really, it really is just awesome.
Yeah, and that's definitely something you see I mean, throughout the franchise, like even in the original episodes, which there's this one episode season two called Journey to Babel, which actually has Sarek and Amanda, Spock's parents, who, they make an appearance in this film, where you got this guy who has like blue skin. I forget what the race of the I think they're not Andorians, but they have these antenna that are on their heads, like white hair. But then you see, I think one of those beings makes an appearance in the end of Star Trek 4. I need to like rewatch it yet again in order to confirm. But yeah, you've got all of these alien races just working together, and that's again towards that future, which again speaks to what we could be as humans, like no matter your gender identity, your skin color, your disabilities and whatnot. And it's just everybody coming together for a common cause, and that's what we could be. That was Roddenberry's vision, was we don't have to be divided by whatever makes, whatever our differences are. Our differences don't matter.
All set. All set.
Well said. Wow. Um, where should we go from here? Did we talk about the cinematography? We talked
Yeah.
about
Oh,
the.
here's something. Hang
Oh,
on.
go ahead. Yeah.
The music.
All the
What do
music.
you guys think about the score?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I mean, I know like the classic one, but I feel like this had maybe during the time travel sequences and definitely towards the end, like a really cool, almost psychedelic, the sound design mixed with the traditional score. Really cool.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, one thing I loved was towards the end of the movie. It's like whenever they're going on the shuttlecraft to their new assignment, which ends up being the Enterprise A. You hear the original series theme by Alexander Courage, but it's done in an orchestral way, and it really kind of makes it just that much more epic when you hear the original series theme. And if whenever we get off of here, you go and listen to that track from if you go and listen to the original theme and then listen to that track, you'll hear it. But then also there's an alternate take that like an alternate opening theme, which was that original theme. Like it's very like grand and I see why they didn't use it, but it's something that I can't stop listening to because it just makes that original theme that much better. But yeah, it was more whimsical music that as opposed to James Horner's the score from Star Trek 2 and 3. So, I mean, I think it fit the movie.
Yeah, and the psychedelic style too at times. You mentioned that, Brian, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, but no, it's yeah, it's I would say underrated. I feel like Star Wars John Williams get all the cred, but Star Trek soundtracks or
Oh, well, Jerry Goldsmith, he didn't do the music for this one, but he did the music from the motion picture and the fifth one's The Final Frontier and a couple of the Next Generation movies. But his Star Trek theme it's classic. It's basically what you hear in the Next Generation, but it was originally from Star Trek the motion picture. But this one, the composer for this one, he also did the score for RoboCop 2, if you can believe it.
Oh,
interesting.
whoa.
Yeah, look it up. So
Wow.
and when you hear it, if you listen to the Star Trek 4 score, like go to YouTube, listen to it, and then listen to the RoboCop 2, you're like, yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it right there.
Huh.
Cliff Edelman? Oh no, we're in the
Oh, I
this
think
is the
Clip
next one.
6. I think it was Leonard Rosenman. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong on that, but he did Star Trek 4 and RoboCop 2. He probably did some other things, but
Oh, you're right. I'm in undiscovered country.
although that
Hello,
one,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
yes,
hear
we
you, Joe. Welcome.
Oh, wow. Okay, I apologize. I had a technological malfeasance on my end.
I think in the spirit of Star Trek, you were kind of like, orbiting, and we could tell you were trying to get in the because we saw some signs of communication.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was the probe circling the planet, evaporating the ocean. Yeah, of course.
I was gonna say you were stuck in a transporter malfunction, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, the better one is I think one of my favorite examples of that from Star Trek is it's a DS9 episode where Captain Sisko and all of the senior staff they get caught in a transporter loop, right? And they get hidden in the holodeck in Julian Bashir's James Bond style holodeck program, and then they have to play out the whole thing, and they have to help destroy the world just to keep the program going long enough so that they have enough time to beam everyone out of the holodeck. It's nice. It's tidy the way they do it. It's nice.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out. One of the ones that sticks
Oh
out to
dude, that one's so good.
yeah, for me, the Next Generation episode where I think it's called the final phase where Geordi LaForge and Ro Laren get stuck in like they think that the rest of the crew thinks they're dead, but they're actually like out of phase or out of sync with
Oh yeah. Because that's where they get like a weirdly transported, right?
yeah
They're not like properly transported. They're like they make up some sort of techno babble word for it. But they
yeah
can like walk through walls, but for some reason they don't fall through the floor.
yeah, and I believe was it a Romulan went
Yeah, it's a Romulan thing, but they use an artificial black hole
yeah
for their warp drive. And it turns out that for reasons whatever, this is why this is happening to Ro Laren and Geordi. Like that episode's weird.
yeah.
Joe, Voyage Home. We've talked about a few kind of the major things. I want to get
Yeah,
your
no, I assume you're like about a half hour into it, right? I assume you've already been over the main bits.
Can you give us your essential things first? I want to make sure you're able to, you know,
Oh,
I
yeah,
know you, this
sure.
is a favorite of yours. This is a favorite of yours.
This is, I think, Star Trek for the Voyage Home, I think, is my personal favorite Star Trek that exists. I don't think it's the best Star Trek that exists. I think that's probably Star Trek 6. However, Star Trek 4 is a personal favorite just because it's so much fun. And when Jeff called me and he was like, "Hey, like you studied philosophy for a long time. Could you say some philosophy stuff about Star Trek 4?" I thought about it. Um, but then I was like, not really, not really. No, I mean the closest that I could get was I started opening up my copy of Aristotle and like, hey, like, where is what does Aristotle say about the nature of time and how could time travel possibly make sense? And the thing is, you can go back and read it as much as you want. It's not going to help any of this make sense. I mean, the thing is, if you want a basic explanation for Star Trek 4, it's when Dr. McCoy is chasing Admiral Kirk down the hallway, and he's like, hold on, wait a minute. So, what you're saying is we go to Warp 9 around the sun, possibly achieve time travel and then arrive in the past and then go back to Earth in the past and then pick up a couple of whales and then bring them back to the future doing a similarly implausible maneuver and just sort of assume that the whales are going to tell the probe what we want them to say. And Kirk is like, yeah,
Yeah, that was the best. His whole reply was, yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah. He's like, yeah, that's exactly the plan. And and McCoy just says, well, that's crazy.
yeah, that and again that goes back to, DeForest Kelly just being great and having great chemistry with William Shatner. Just the fact that they were able to make that feel natural.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and I remember one of my other favorite things in Star Trek 4 is it's when Spock says that he's just going to have to guess about his calculations. And McCoy just says, angels and ministers of justice defend us. And
Yeah,
Spock's like, oh, yeah, that's from Hamlet.
yeah.
Just to like defend his own memory, you know?
And but yeah, but then that also goes to like Spock was so like super duper calculated about this, and then he's like, well, I just got to take my best shot. Like, what can I do? It shows a little bit of growth on his part, especially, adapting to his circumstances and
Sure. I mean, but that only happens after they're gonna go back, right?
yeah.
Because when Spock has to guess, that's when they're going back, and Spock just says like, "Well, I'm gonna have to guess," and Kirk says, "That's extraordinary," and Spock takes it as an insult in the moment. And then McCoy has to go up to him and kind of talk him down. He's like, no, like what he's saying is he trusts your guesses more than other people's facts.
Wow.
You
Joe,
know?
That was so great.
Joe, we talked about. I want to hear your take on the lighting and some of the visuals in this film because I want to out you and say you are a cinematographer as well.
I
You're quite a photographer too, and you have a good eye. And so, visual style for Voyage Home. What's your hot take on it?
the thing is, it's kind of mild. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like the visual style of it. But look, Leonard Nimoy kind of directed this film. It was basically directed by Nick Meyer, who was, very much in the background. Because, Leonard Nimoy was coming straight off of having directed The Search for Spock, which also I would say is, visually speaking, not really exciting. Exactly.
Which,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
I read, hold on. You were right on the edge of asking a question. What's the question?
Well, what are the memorable visuals from the film? And
Oh,
yeah, that you loved in Voyage Home.
From Star Trek 4.
Yeah, yeah.
The big one would, well, let's see. There's the gigantic space hot dog that shows up, and that is just, of course, that's memorable because that's like the plot point of the whole film. There's that. There's the crew of the Enterprise showing up in San Francisco in uniform, total fish out of water. That's funny. And then I guess I would say the end of the film where they're flying the bird of prey under the Golden Gate Bridge. I think those would be like the three big images. Oh, and them getting Chekhov out of hospital. That whole sequence. That's one of my favorite sequences in the entire film.
That,
Okay,
that,
I
yeah,
just one thing I loved about that was okay, so they go in with Jillian on the gurney. She's pretending to have cramps.
Yeah,
When you come out with Chekhov on there, and then he's like, "Wait a minute, you brought a woman in here." Kirk says,
yeah,
"One little mistake." I
yeah.
don't.
One mistake.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But also
No,
one.
and then Chekhov starts to wake up, and Kirk just puts his head on his face. He's like, "Not now, Pavel."
You know what? One visual I do like that I didn't say before, but I do actually for some reason I just really love it. It's like whenever the Enterprise A comes out of the shipping dock, you see it like but and this is before it cuts to the scene when they're in the Enterprise and before Kirk is like, let's see what she's got. Like you see like the ship just come out in space, just coming out into space. I don't know why I loved it. And
It is, dude, that is the best starship pornography that exists in Star Trek anywhere. Whenever the Enterprise comes out or enters space dock, like that's it.
oh yeah, absolutely. Even in Star Trek 3, like whenever they're stealing the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Brian, you mentioned something earlier about you could have watched a whole film of them just wandering around San Francisco. Joe, Joe and Nick, did you watch that too?
Can I raise my hand? Can I raise my hand? There is something I wanted to say. We talked about this before.
All right, go ahead, go ahead.
The thing is, in fiction, in Star Trek, San Francisco is supposed to be the center of Starfleet and the Federation and all that stuff. It's supposed to be basically the center of the world, kind of. Now, we send the crew of the Enterprise back in time a couple of 100 years, and they kind of pretend that they don't understand the lay of the land in San Francisco.
We were talking about this before, yeah.
Yeah, like
Is it
they're like they say
something?
like, hey, like we're looking for nuclear vessels. And it's like, okay, like where are they? Oh, they're in Alameda. Well, where's Alameda? Why do you not know where Alameda is when you went to Star Trek college in San Francisco?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Is it? Do you think time has passed and that's created like confusion in their minds, or would it? I mean, it's
I
still the
don't
same.
know. I mean, I assume Alameda is still an island over there across the bay.
Mhm.
Do you think something crazy happened? I don't.
I,
Probably 200 years. Yeah,
I
like
like I was saying earlier, maybe some things happened. They did some futuristic stuff, but you're right. You got a point there. But then, like I said earlier, they were even in San Francisco in Star Trek 3. All of them. Uhura was there. Chekhov. They
Oh,
were all
that's true. That's
place
true. They were there in Star
yeah.
Trek
It's no
3. Yeah.
excuses.
before Sarah entered into the picture at that point.
We have like, I don't want to go over, but we have like 15 minutes left. the lightning round, or we could go for 10 minutes. Nick, I want to give the mic to you. Anything we haven't touched on with Voyage Home that we should, or any other elements related to the film?
Well, I would say there's one thing that I find interesting about it is that even though it is kind of, I mean, we're talking about a continuous ongoing narrative throughout these films that's
Yeah.
going to the show, but you start to see little seeds of things that are going to grow in, and come, they're cultivated and grow in Star Trek 6, especially regarding the Klingons. Like all of these little elements that you see, you're like, oh, they know about the cloaking technology. Like I said before, they're trying to have these peace talks, but of course, the peace talks keep getting broken, and then there's this hatred of, especially the Klingons do not like Kirk because of the actions in Star Trek 3, and it carries over a little bit to Star Trek 5 because the main Klingon villain in that is like, well, I'm gonna kill Kirk and be like the greatest warrior. And then like when you watch Star Trek 6, you're like, all right, now things are really everything's coming kind of full circle in a way.
I think it's a little bit important that we acknowledge that in Star Trek 6, Kirk hooks up with the chick that used to be David Bowie's wife,
Yes, that's right. That is true.
with Iman.
Hmm.
Can I ask a question about Kirk's love life? And I'm kind of really stuck on this. Did he didn't really seem that into
Anyway, I'm sorry, that was a random introduction, but I was like, I love Star Trek 6 for different reasons than I love Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. Yeah, your question.
Oh, I'm sorry, but does Kirk use James Bond as an example? Just in the newer films, they kind of gave him a love interest that kind of carried through a couple of the films. Does Kirk have something like that, or is he just kind of go from film to film, and they kind of bring different romantic?
In the original films, basically, yes, he does just kind of go from interest to interest to interest. Like in one, he has no one. In uh, Wrath of Khan, he doesn't have anybody. In Search for Spock, he kind of reconfigures with. Am I right on this? He gets together with David's mother,
Oh, well, in Star Trek 2, like they
right?
kind
And that's the one where David dies.
in Star Trek 3 he died. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then in 4, he has an incidental encounter with Doctor What's her face, the whale doctor.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amanda?
In 5, he doesn't have a love interest. In 6, he also does not have a love interest except for Iman, but that is tantamount to them making out for one scene. So that's about it.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
Kirk did slow down a bit in his later years as
Slow down.
the original series. But like he even mentioned in Star Trek Generations, which is like the seventh film, that he was gonna propose to this woman named Antonia, but then he's like he left for Starfleet, and that's a whole.
Yeah, but that movie is so bad it barely deserves mention. Like, it doesn't make sense.
There's
That
some
movie,
like
in
about
in terms of movies that play with time travel. Oh my God, Star Trek 4 makes a lot more sense than Star Trek Generations.
yeah, absolutely.
I
But
mean, like I said, one of my favorite scenes is when Dr. McCoy and Mr. Scott go to
plastics
the
company.
factory, and they're like, "Yo, we can show you how to make transparent aluminum. Like, do you want to do it?"
Oh, speaking of
And then
which,
they give him the computer, and he picks up the mouse, and he's like,
that's
"Hello, computer."
yeah, that
And
was
they're
like
like,
I
"Will you
love that.
just use the keyboard?" And he's like, "Oh, the keyboard.
That's what he's
How
trying to talk.
quaint."
It's
He
all
types
right.
in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, think that would be useful to you? Like, I could just push delete. And he's like, no,
And
it's an amazing scene.
yeah, and I love
It,
McCoy.
it might be my favorite scene in the whole film.
And I love how McCoy goes. He's like, you realize that if we give him this, we're altering the future. He's like, well, how do we not even invent the thing?
Yeah.
I like that too. Yeah. Brian,
Yeah, no, I mean, this is actually something. This is actually something Jeff asked me when we
yeah.
were kind of warming up for this. He was like, "Oh, well, you do a lot of philosophy stuff. You think about time or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, like Aristotle says stuff like time is just motion." And maybe that's relevant, but I was like, this movie is so silly that even thinking about that kind of stuff is just not really relevant to the thing. Which, going to that scene, that's exactly what Mr. Scott says. He's like, well, how do you know he didn't invent the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then him and Dr. McCoy just laugh about it. It's
Good laugh.
brilliant. It's perfect. It really is.
Yeah. Um, Brian, is there anything you want to mention before we start to wrap it up?
I think anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just gonna say, thank you for accepting me into this conversation. You guys are much bigger. You're much deeper Star Trek fans and know so much more than I do. I was the like fool in the room who just like watched this film kind of like from not having seen another Star Trek film in a long time. So, but I really enjoyed it, and I think I might watch some more because I really Paramount Plus, I guess, has all of them. And I'm probably mostly interested in the original cast, but I know that Nick loves obviously Next Generation too. So a lot of Star Trek out there for everyone, but really enjoyed this one. If you're like me, you've never really seen too many Star Trek films, you know, it's enjoyable and it's different. It's different than like 99% of most genre sci-fi films where there's a bad guy and a war and an explosion and a fight and all this stuff. And it's just a little different.
No,
Um,
that's true. That's a very good point. And from what I remember, from what I've read, that's something that Leonard Nimoy was kind of a hard ass about. He was like, this is not going to be like a pew pew sci-fi Star Wars kind of movie. Like, no. Like, there's not going to be a villain. There's not going to be space battles and stuff like that. No. Like, this is a different kind of story. And in that way, I think it really shines.
Joe, is there anything from your list and notes to mention? Do you have
Oh
any?
yeah, really. I mean, if you haven't brought it up already, I apologize. It took me some time to
All
figure
right.
out the technology so that I could call in. So I may
Yeah.
have missed some things.
All right.
But I would just bring up James Doohan, Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
Uh, which I mean, one of the craziest things about him as an actor was he was at D-Day and he got shot 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's bonkers.
he's missing his middle finger on his one of his hands, and you kind of if you like go frame by frame, you'll see it when he's typing in.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
you're
wow.
right.
Wow.
good,
Um,
good fact.
But anyway, yeah,
yeah.
that's just like one thing that has always popped out to me, just because, Mr. Scott is one of my favorite. Look, I love the entire cast in all of the films, but in Voyage Home, there's something with Mr. Scott figuring out how to fix up the Klingon bird of prey that they're in, which I just find so endearing.
It is a kind of nuanced thing that you catch, I think, when you see it like the second, like you realize his, screen time, and it's always really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, what does he say? I think he says, uh, I think he says like reading Klingon, that's hard, but fixing the thing, can you remind, do either of you remember what he says?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just have to think about the
Yeah,
quote.
like fixing the replicators is easy, but reading Klingon is hard. It's something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because he was saying that the Klingon food packs were giving him a sour stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's always been an unsung, or maybe not unsung, but yeah, I'm gonna say unsung part of that cast where it's like you can't do an original crew movie without him. I mean,
No, you can't. You
you can't
can't.
without
And
Shaq.
even like a next gen, I think gives him homage. When there's that one episode of TNG
Yeah, relics.
when they recover Mr. Scott's uh transporter thingamajig from the thing, and they bring him back, and he gets beamed aboard the Enterprise D and proceeds to just basically annoy Geordie
Yes.
LaForge
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
episode, and he's like, look, like I've been repairing starships since your grandmother was in diapers.
Yeah, but that's just a testament to what a performer James Doohan was, and
No, he was so great. He was so great.
I mean, I like the entire cast. I mean, one thing I forgot to mention, and we probably should have discussed a little more, is I just liked all that stuff, like where they're at the Cetacean Institute and up to where they leave, and then they get in the truck with Dr. Taylor and the whole LDS, where he's like, I think he did a little too much LDS. Like again, the humor's not like it
Oh,
got.
it's so much fun. It's
That
so
is a
much fun,
cool
and
line.
I have seen one or two behind the scenes kind of things where they talk about this. And generally in Star Trek, you don't have much in the way of improvisation, right? That generally doesn't happen. But in that scene, when they're in the car, they're like, "Do you like Italian?" And Spock says, "No." Kirk says, "Yes." Spock says, "No." Kirk says, "Yes." Spock says, "Yes." That was a completely improvised. That was improvisation.
Yeah.
That was great.
That
Yeah.
generally doesn't happen in Star Trek films because they're well, not overwritten. I wouldn't say that, but very written is what I'm saying.
Specific to
Yeah,
specific
I mean,
detail.
there's a thing that the script supervisor would generally tend to say on the set of any Star Trek film, which is DLP made, which means dead letter perfect.
Mm.
So when you hit that, then you don't have to do another take because you got DLP, dead letter perfect. But sometimes they would fool around, and that's one of the rare occasions where the original cast got to play.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I mean, I think it also fit that again with the tone of the movie and them being fish out of water. It fits.
Now again,
Yeah.
and of course, I mean, in contrast with something like Wrath of Khan, which is like a much more serious movie, I guess, or even Search for Spock is pretty serious. I mean, the Voyage Home, it's really just kind of having fun, and you can see it with stuff like the score. the score in the Voyage Home is amazing, and it's very different from any other score that you get in any other Star Trek film.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Let me ask you this. Have you heard the alternate theme, which is basically just the original Alexander Courage theme, just except it's done like in by Leonard Rosenman, by the guy who scored it. If you haven't, I suggest
No, is that a thing? I
yeah.
didn't know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, it's on
Wow.
YouTube. You could easily find it. Just type in Star Trek 4 alternate main theme, and it's like literally that like that, and
Right.
I like it, but I kind of understand why they went with the theme that they ultimately ended up using.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one musical object that they have in the Voyage Home that really pops out to me is the whole one that they use in the sequence where they rescue Chekhov from the hospital,
Yes.
which is this very like bright, kind of like almost like fun,
It was
Yeah.
almost
you
like
know,
a silent
motif
silent
that they
film
use.
music. I could see that. It felt almost like a
Right.
Charlie Chaplin or Marx Brothers kind of
Yeah, kind of.
comedic.
Oh, I
It's,
mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say Marx Brothers, but it's just something a little more fanciful than you would expect in a Star
Chaplin,
Trek film.
Keaton, yeah, yeah. Um, does anybody need to go or want to go, or does anybody want to continue?
Dude, I could talk about this movie for like 3 days.
Like, can you like if nobody's ever seen this movie, what is what would you say? Why do they need to see this movie?
Um, wow. Do any of you guys have an answer to that question?
I think what I would say if I were to say, okay, yeah, you should definitely watch Star Trek 4 is because it's lighter sci-fi, it's not dystopian. It does have like a message of positivity, and it's fun, and you can enjoy the characters. You can kind of it's like a light movie that you could just you don't have to worry about your taxes or your dog going to the vet for a couple of hours. And it's not like it has the little sci-fi trappings in it.
And whales too. How many sci-fi films do you get about whales? Not too many.
Exactly. And of the fourth entries in a sci-fi film or sci-fi fantasy kind of realm where they're dealing with some kind of issue that was prevalent in the 80s, this one's definitely the better one. There's one I'm not mentioning. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, but it's not a very good movie.
In the Star Trek franchise or in another franchise?
Another franchise. Uh,
Man,
Oh,
four.
don't be
yes,
coy. What is it?
you got it, Ryan. Superman 4, you're the nuclear disarmament, and
Oh,
then
Rest
come
in
on.
peace.
Superman
Rest
4,
in peace.
but then you got the
Well, I mean,
whale,
compare franchises, right? The fourth Superman versus the fourth Star Trek. It's
which actually
Wow.
Star Trek 4 came out a year before Superman 4, but again, that's completely now we're going off on a different tangent, but
I'll
it's
admit, I didn't know there was a fourth Superman.
don't need to know. I still watch it. I have a soft spot in my heart for it because it's the reason half the reason I got into the character. But
Can
now we're going.
I just I've had a moment to think about it. Can I say my reason for why one ought to watch Star Trek for The Voyage Home?
Yes.
I think that it is well, look, in the search for Spock, you are presented with the very serious kind of philosophical question of what's going on with Spock, and his brain is in Dr. McCoy's brain, and you got to steal the Enterprise, and you got to go to Vulcan, to retransplant Spock's brain into his newly resurrected body. Right?
Yeah.
Then in Star Trek 4, you get this one little scene. It's a very short scene. And uh, Bones just sits next to Spock. They're on their way back to Earth, and they're just starting to learn about, how the probe is screwing with everything, and taking away everyone's electricity and evaporating the ocean and all these bad things, right? And Bones just asks Spock directly. He's like, "What's it like to die? What's it like to die?" And Spock just says, "Well, I can't really answer because we don't have a common frame of reference." And Bones is like, "Wait, so you're saying I have to die in order such that we can talk about death?" And he's like, "Hold on, I can't answer your question right now." I'm like, "There's a new transmission." But no, I think it is maybe the Star Trek film that does the best job of not really answering philosophical questions, but posing them. Uh, I think Star Trek 5 maybe tries to do this, where it's like, hey, like let's go to a planet at the center of the galaxy and we'll go talk to God with Spock's brother. But but that movie is broken. I think Star Trek 4 does a much better job in this one tiny scene. Does that make sense to you guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that was another again, like it goes back to the characters and their chemistry again. DeForest Kelly and Leonard Nimoy in that scene alone, and that's just built upon their characters' previous relationships. Where even in Star Trek 3, one of the best lines in that, where he's like, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And then he's like, "You're suffering from a Vulcan mind meld." And he's like, "That green-blooded son of a bitch." This is his revenge for all those arguments he lost.
That he lost. Yes.
So, so that's just a further extension of that, and you see where Spock and McCoy, especially again, like I was saying before earlier, that this is
Oh,
this.
there's another funny one. I remember in Star Trek 5, one thing that he says is, "I liked him better before he died."
Yes, that was fun.
Anyway, go on. I'm sorry. That was just a one off.
All I was saying was like, as a part of this trilogy, the Genesis trilogy of sorts, you see them have the argument in two. Then it's like you see all that stuff in three, and then there's a really nice scene in three where speaking to Spock's unconscious body, like he's like I couldn't stand to lose you again. And then you see that the scene you just spoke about in four, and it's just like you really are endeared to these characters. I
Yeah,
think probably the maybe the most in the first six movies. I think you might be endeared the most to these characters in Star Trek 4, if not 6.
probably, yeah. And I would say that the other angle of just sort of affirming what you just said would be the moment where they all kind of get together and agree that, yes, we have to go save Chekhov.
Yes, that was such a good moment.
And like, is it the logical thing to do? No, but it's the human thing to do.
Yeah, and that goes back to Spock training on Vulcan and
Yep,
his mother saying,
yep,
"Yeah, the computer knows you're half human." And he's like, "You're
yep.
gonna have these feelings. You'll experience them from time to time." So it was just like little things like that. There was some sharp writing in this movie too for what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have left. I don't know about you, Jeff or Brian.
Yeah. Um, one of the things I noticed watching this film, I mean, now it's like three times. The courtroom scenes, they're very short, and I think the first time you see the film, you could kind of miss the information they're talking about because then it's like over with and it comes back kind of in the end. Rewatching the film, they do on a cinematic level, they do such a good job kind of in the running time. They have like just enough, the backstory, and then you have all the build up with the whales and the time travel and the suspense and coming to Earth. Like it has a very good rhythm and like just the way it's crafted. Like I think they really
Well,
you know
kind of,
just
but
get it.
the courtroom stuff in that movie isn't that big of a deal because it sort of assumes that you've seen Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock,
Yeah,
right?
it gives it another layer.
So
It gives it another layer too.
it's a cranky Klingon complaining that Captain Kirk has done some bad things, and basically they want to, well, arrest him and put him in jail or whatever they want to do. But it's not really the dramatic fulcrum of that movie.
Yeah, they do a good job kind of sprinkling those scenes in, I think, to give it more of a nuance, you know. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's like I think it's in Star Trek 4. It's at the beginning. Sarek walks into the trial and he's like, "Well, do you have a right to commit murder? Like, is that your justice?"
yeah,
And the Klingon guy just kind of says harumph and leaves. That's pretty much that scene. Am I did I get something wrong?
yeah,
At the end, when I thought it was cool how everyone, well, basically they drop the charges, right? First, the charges are against everyone, and they're like, Spock, you're not even charged. And he's like, I stand here with my
Yeah,
friends,
I stand with my crewmates. Yeah,
my crewmates. And then they go, all right, we're dropping all the charges except for one to just Kirk for insubordination or just like disobeying orders.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, all right, well, I guess he got like a misdemeanor, but
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll write it out for the next one.
I mean,
yeah, pretty much. And really, when they do that to him, it's like, yeah, like you're not an admiral anymore, but now you're a captain. But we're
Right.
doing it because we recognize that this is like your skill set, really. So we're gonna just make you a captain again, so that you can be captain of the Enterprise, because that's what we want you to do.
and now that you guys, both of you guys mentioned that, which I love that scene too at the very end. This throughout this trilogy of films, there's kind of a deconstruction and a reconstruction, but also kind of like how the Genesis planet, there's a rebirth there of these characters. So I think that it's a nice trilogy capper to and that's another reason why I would recommend Star Trek 4, but I'd also say watch 2 and 3 and to get this kind of complete picture. Not the way the movie ended, they could have literally stopped at Star Trek 4 and that would have been it. But I mean, I'm glad we got, Star Trek 6 and so on.
Yeah, 6, I have to say, is the best one, but 4 is my favorite one.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, my favorite is First Contact, as I've said before. But
I don't know. Six, it's weird. On one level, I want to say like, yo, it's Robert Wise. Star Trek: The Motion Picture probably is actually the best one, but I think the real best one is 6. But my favorite is still 4, and I don't know how to justify that calculus, but
for the final question, does this whole thing feel like Star Trek to an extent? the like video communication, or like the way this stuff has evolved. I mean, they definitely got. We could talk another 2 hours about the technology they kind of predicted or showed, years ago. So, but just like this this experience, like, do you ever think like, man, this is kind of like close to Star Trek?
Yeah, well, remember when we had the flip phones? That's basically they had flip phones in the original 60s Trek, but then in this one they have like
Yeah.
wrist communicators and stuff like that, and that's basically, you got your Apple Watches and you got all these devices and so on and so forth, and even what we're doing right now with the Zoom, that's stuff that they had in the Star Trek
True. It's a very
franchise.
Star Trek way to talk about the film.
Mhm.
No, no, for sure. I mean, like when Kirk goes on his date with Jillian, right? And they call him, he has to pull out his communicator, and he's like embarrassed.
It was like a pager.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like I told you not to call me.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a good part.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
That
maybe
was really funny. And then she just says like, okay, how about we start all over again?
yeah.
the
Well,
magic. The magic.
It's like, what are you from space? He's like, no, I'm from Iowa. I just work in space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
well, I
guys.
don't know.
It's brilliant writing. I mean, there's like the way that the scenes are sort of played out. They're brilliant. They're all so good.
Brian, I'll let you go. Thanks for joining. I should let you all go. I don't want to keep you guys. It's later
Oh
over
no,
here.
yeah. I was just gonna say real quick, because I haven't seen all the other films. I think maybe in reverse now. I will go through the others. I don't know if I'll start at one and go back through three, or do
Oh,
three.
you have to start at one. You have to start at one. One is great. The motion picture
One
is
is
brilliant.
fun. One
But
is fun.
don't listen to the podcast me and Jeff did about one, because we didn't even
This
get to
podcast or no?
talking through the entire plot. And it's Jeff's fault. It's not my fault.
Fair, fair. I've already spoiled it for myself, so. Ugh. But thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. It was
It's
fun.
fun. I feel like I didn't talk enough, but you guys
Oh, again,
guys
Jeff,
made it happen.
like I told you, I could talk about Star Trek 4 for at least 3 more days.
3 more days.
Oh, easily.
Well, if the fans demand it, we could do a
Easily.
part two. Do a
What
part
about the
two
scene when they go back in time and have this strange hallucination event? I remember when we were talking about Star Trek the Motion Picture, when they
Yeah.
go through the wormhole, they have this weird kind of like the psychedelic
Oh gosh.
event,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When in the motion picture they go back in time, you have all the main characters going through this weird psychedelic kind of
Yeah, like
vision, and then they wake up and Kirk is like, hey Sulu, like, are we
Yes.
you know and
yeah.
he's like, oh, like, we're in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Cool.
Joe, I can hang on with you and you could talk some more if you would like, but I'll let these guys go. They've been on here longer and I don't want to keep you all night.
What, do they not want to hear me talk? What's wrong with them?
I told them we were only going to talk for like an hour to an hour and a half. I don't want to keep them here all night.
Yeah, leave the fans wanting more.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, if you guys would like to talk Star Trek 6, or I mean even other kind
Oh,
of sci-fi movies.
dude, I could do 6 for several more days after talking Star Trek 4. I love Star Trek 6.
Yeah, like
All right.
I'll love it too. I like I said, and also like if you guys are like, hey, we want to talk about the new Superman or talk about whatever, like those kind of things, I would definitely be, if we could hook it up, I'm down to talk about that too. And I got
Yeah, man.
a
Man
couple
knows
I'm
DC.
I'm I'm I'm, I'm jealous of your uniform. I'm jealous of
oh,
your communicator.
I got a couple more too. Like I actually need to get the gold one. I have the blue one, and I got like the next generation ones as well. So
Nice.
Wow. Well, we'll do
Respect.
another one if you guys like, if you guys would like.
yeah,
I will only do it if Jeff gets a Star Trek uniform.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
The challenge. He dropped the challenge.
It's not a hard requirement. I'm just saying that were Jeff to get a Star Trek uniform, I would be, more lenient.
Oh wait, Jeff, I do have a question for you. Those
Yeah.
pictures you texted me the other day, did you go and visit the different locations in San
Yeah,
Francisco?
yeah, I took some photos. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you can post them with the video, but you took some
Yeah.
cool. You walked around.
Some video too. Some video too. I have
Oh yeah, these are the ones. Jeff, are these the same pictures you sent to me?
the saloon. Yeah, there's this saloon bar, and I took some current day photos of that. You know what it looks like. I mean, the saloon
Because
is
those are the ones in Star Trek 4. That's the tracking shot. They go along, and it's that same alley, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
where they're like, oh, we got to find the yellow pages.
Yes, exactly. I could try to include that. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a good
That's cool.
idea.
That's cool you did that.
And I have a little bit of video of like downtown, kind of like to North Beach, where there's this green building, the Coppola building, and you see that the intersection. That's a pretty
Ah,
big moment when they get to San
that's
Francisco. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but still, I would go back to the thing that I already said like 10 minutes ago, which is all you guys went to Starfleet College in San Francisco. Why don't you know where Alameda is?
yeah.
all right.
Like,
Well,
come on.
Yeah.
I'll say live long and prosper.
Yes. Live long and prosper.
Good night. Thank
All
you.
right, gentlemen.
Good night. Godspeed.
Later, yeah.